Fetterolf. I'm a 2004 graduate of Tri-Valley. Currently live in Valley View. Have two boys. Some of you might know a mechanical engineering student in Arizona State University online, working towards my bachelor's of mechanical engineering. So I've gotten some exposure to TinkerCAD. TinkerCAD is a great program. It's part of the Autodesk system of programs. So they're kind of claim to fame is AutoCAD. If you've ever heard of AutoCAD, that comes from Autodesk. But at some point they realized that AutoCAD was, it's a very expensive program to use. So what they did is they developed TinkerCAD, which is a free version that's similar, but it's has its limitations. But it's free, so it's a learning tool for students, and in fact they use it in college too, because I have some of my classes I've had assignments where I had to use TinkerCAD. So my main objective here today is to kind of walk you through some of the things I've seen, some of the tips and tricks, and some of the things that are a little bit hard and difficult to navigate through this program. So I'm going to go through this, and I'm going to try and give plenty of time before end your class to ask as many questions as you have. So with that being said, did I hear right? You guys are all logged in TinkerCAD, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if you just want to just work along with me, if you come up with any questions, just feel free to stop me. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Okay. So the first thing you want to do whenever you start a project is you're going to want to name your project. So TinkerCAD is going to give you your project a name. So if you look up in the top left, you're going to see kind of they have some really creative names they come up with. So right now I have the Glorious Jutuli on mine. I'm not sure what you have, but if you just click on that, you're going to be able to just give this whatever name you want. So you can go ahead and just name that project. And then the next thing we're going to want to do, this is the second step for every project you do, is down in you're going to see a whole bunch of shapes on your right side, but right next to those shapes in the bottom right corner, there's a button that's called Settings. So you want to click on that. You're going to have a box that pops up that says Workplace Settings or Workspace Settings. So in here, the main thing you want to do is you want to change your units to whatever you're working with. Now, there's three options: millimeters, inches, and bricks. Whatever your preference is on here. I work with millimeters and everything just because I use this for 3D printing, and millimeters is kind of the standard for a lot of the models I make. But there's nothing wrong with using inches. Bricks, you want to probably stay away from bricks. I think that's made for inches. And presets, make sure that stays on TinkerCAD. If you drop that down, you're going to see a lot of names in there. That's all for 3D printing space, so stay in TinkerCAD. And then you can also change the width and length. That is the width and length of the work plane that is on your screen. So we get anywhere on things, and that'll stay standard and throughout this project. And TinkerCAD has a great cloud-based service to store all your models, so they'll stay here for a fairly long time. So you don't have to worry about saving it. So the next thing I want to talk about is right below settings, you'll see Snap Grid. So if you click that, you're going to see a whole bunch of options. So what these are is how much of so you can use your arrow keys on your keypad to move these shapes around. So if you set it to 1 millimeter, what that's saying is that if you have your shape selected, it is going to move that shape 1 millimeter. Now this is a good function, but it can also be a little bit difficult to manage. You're going to see where you're going to try and align shapes, and your movement is, if it's 1 millimeter, you'll never be able to get it aligned because 1 millimeter is going to move it too much. So this is where you want to change that to, I usually leave it set at 0.1 millimeters, or the smallest if you're in inches. I don't know what that is, but, or you can turn it off altogether and you'll make really fine movements. So I would highly suggest that you change that to the smallest or off at this point. Okay. So is everybody with me yet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, we should be now just with a blank work plane. So just some navigation tips for you. So if, first of all, if you don't use a mouse with this program, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So if you do have a mouse available, I suggest you use a mouse, just because it's going to make moving around a whole lot easier for you. And all the explanations I'm going to give are with a mouse. So first thing is, if you right click and you hold the right click, you're going to be able to rotate around the shape. So if you click it and rotate, you'll see that the work plane will start to rotate. And also notice that there's a square up in the top left corner that's also rotating. And it says front, it says right. So this is the side of your shape, of your work plane. So you can move and customize this to whatever you want. Or if you want to look at a certain view, you can go to that block in the left corner and say you want to click the top. If you click on the top, it's going to automatically move to the top of and show you the top view of your shape. So that's how you can kind of navigate that. Now, the other thing you can do is, if you want to just shift your work plane around and not rotate, what you need to do is hold the shift key. So the shift key in TinkerCAD is kind of the work off of shortcut keys. This is what you want to do. Like if you're used to other programs where you want to select two different objects and you hold control to select, holding control does not work in TinkerCAD. Everything is with shift. So that's a little bit awkward if you're used to holding control to select multiple things. But so just get used to, more than likely, if you need to hold anything, it's going to be the shift key. So if you hold the shift key, right click and move around, you'll notice that the work plane just pans and does not rotate. Okay? You all with me yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to put a shape on there. So what I'm going to ask is if everybody can click on in the right, there's a option. It should be in the top row. It looks like a red cube called a box. So if you just click on that, left click, and drag it out onto the work plane, and you'll have a block sitting on your work plane. Does everybody have a block? And then while you're at it, everybody grab a second block and put it out there as well. Okay. All right, so when you have the two blocks on, you'll notice if you select the block, what you should see is a white dot that would show up at each corner. So if you kind of hover over them, you're going to see some block boxes that you can enter measurements. Can everybody see that? So if you click on one of the white dots, they will stay there when you leave the dot. They won't disappear if you're just hovering. So if you click on them and then click in one of them boxes and change that value, you're going to change the size of your block. And you can do all sides of it. So I think if you guys are using foam board, that is, if I remember right,
Yes, they
5
are.
millimeters. Yeah, so that's standard foam board is 5 millimeters thick. So you want to change your block to like 5 millimeters, and then you can change the other dimensions to whatever you feel.
Yep.
Yeah, they're good. They're working away here.
Okay, so now what I want you to do with the other block is do the same thing, but when you select it, there's also a kind of a little sub menu that pops in whole. I want you to change that one to whole. What you see is it's going to kind of look like a shadow now. So, and to explain a little bit what whole is. So what they did with TinkerCAD is instead of making custom shapes, so you can't really make a custom shape. So what they want you to do is build the shape you want by using the shapes that they have preset. So the way you do that is by putting these shapes together, such as you can do anything blocks. You can see there's triangles already preset in here that they may call a roof or a wedge or even maybe a pyramid. And then you can put them together and we can group them to make one shape. Or you can also add a hole to a shape. So what this is you've created a hole. What I want you to do is kind of just put that over top of your existing block. Anywhere, as long as it's not covering the whole thing. Just covering a portion of it. Once you do that, I want you to hold the shift key and select both of those shapes.